G fucking M. How are we all? Good? Friday. Casual Fridays. Let's go. Let me close my door so you don't hear the ocean, which is a bit angry today. GM. Alright. Here we go. First of all, a massive congratulations to Yun for winning the trading competition. An insanely impressive 84R returns over the past 30 days. For anyone who doesn't understand what R means, if you're new, if you put 1% risk per trade, you would have made 84%. So he would have almost doubled his trading account in 1 month. And I ran through the trades with him and all of the top 10. And they were not stupid, crazy, ape gambling. It was systematic trading. And a lot of it. Both Yun and Mr. Robot especially had a really high frequency of trades. Super high frequency of trades. Obviously both very active traders. So great work by Yun. Yun has won a year subscription to TradingView Premium. If he doesn't already have it. If he does already have it, then we'll figure something out. Mr. Robot and Casual 1 came in second and third, 66 and 52 hours respectively. Both, I didn't know what to expect when this is the first competition we've had. So I had no benchmark. I had no figure in mind for what to expect with the competition, with the actual results. And if you had told me that the third place would be 52R, I'd be like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Because I think 52R would win most competitions. So, amazing work by the 3Gs. Second prize, $100 cash. Well, stable coins, because fuck cash. Third prize, a month free subscription in the real world. I'll get back to you all in DMs. We'll go over that. Get you those sorted out this weekend. And to everybody else, the next competition starts in just over 2 weeks. Start of February. We'll go again. It's open to everybody who's at blue belt or above. So GM. No bearish. Yeah, bearish Pepe meme. Very good. GM everyone. G fucking M. So let's take a look at the market here, just briefly, before we get into it. As Bitcoin pushed down into the evening. I mean, this is such a bearish setup here, right? After a big event where you get a sweep of the highs, flushes down, and then it just kind of stalls and has no demand. The big tell for me this afternoon was when there was no front running of the New York session. The New York session, so yesterday morning, we bottomed out around 7 a.m. and then rallied up all the way into New York because obviously Wall Street were coming in to buy our bags. There was none of that today, straight selling. And so if you haven't seen daily levels, go watch daily levels today for my thoughts on it. It's super in-depth. I could not be any more in-depth, so just check that out. Alright, where's the chart that I drew all the fucking squiggles on this morning? Is it this one? Yeah. So one of these paths is what I'm looking at. I'll talk a little bit about the psychology I see here in the market at this point. That would be, if Bitcoin follows this blue path that I was talking about, where basically we chop sideways, or we have we can bounce. I mean, it can bounce up to here, go down. It can go straight back up and down. It can go sideways and down, whatever. In any case, in any path, if Bitcoin ends up down in this area and then starts going sideways, this is the important thing. If it starts going sideways in this area, around 40 to 42, can be as low as 40, obviously. I think anything down there is what I'm watching. I like that. I'll be buying. I'll be getting long there. Because, especially if people are like super bearish and it was sell the news and exit all markets and blah, blah, blah. That's just going to set Bitcoin up perfectly to go and attack the highs again. Right? Because it's just now that we're past all that, it's just really a trading range. And so when you zoom out, I think we have a big trading range between these two wicks. Right? And you can see it here just with the high, low, midpoint. To me, I just think that's where BTC is going to trade for a while. So I'll be watching quite closely 40.48 on a bounce. See if how that works and does that respect as a mid-range, because it has respected here as a support. If it respects as a resistance here, and you can see us moving down and towards the range lows, don't get bearish at those lows, because the incentive for smart money will be easily to squeeze shorts and push that back up. The problem with most people, and here's the part one of the things I want to say here is, first of all, I don't know where to, no one knows where price is going, right? But I do know how psychology works. And that was a big part of my talk this morning and talking about the Bitcoin top being in and the nature of this is just how markets move. When you reach a peak of interest and a peak of new entrants, who is left to buy? It's just as simple as that. Who is left to buy? Unless TradFi just starts aping in billions of dollars consistently for weeks on end, then it's going to be some kind of local top. But also, it's also true that it's just the beginning. This is the beginning of the institutionalization of the space and of Bitcoin and all that. And what I expect to happen is exactly what happened last time and happens every single time, is by the time they talk about, it's sell the news, you should have exited, it's too late. I told you all this about fucking forget about shorting, right? And the reason I said forget about shorting is because it's now down almost 10% already. It is down 11%. And I said this, before you have any indication that price is properly bearish, it'll be 10% off the highs. And anyone telling you, no, I was shorting here, I shorted this wick, blah, blah, blah. That's just people. Either, yes, you can trade that if you want. I'm not saying you can't trade that. But for the average person, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean for 99% of people whose goal is not to trade 30 times a day and trade every direction. If that is what you're doing, like the guys who won the competition, you can safely ignore me anyway, but you know that. Because you know I'm not speaking to you. My job is to speak to everybody. And the way I see it, there's no upside in shorting, because by the time you have any kind of show of weakness, it's 10% off the highs. And Bitcoin's downside probably be 20% off the highs, right? Which would be 39, maybe 30% if it gets really bad. But that's not like, Bitcoin's not going to do that in one candle. It's going to take ages. It's going to drop down and bounce and drop down and bounce. And it's going to go like, and even this, it won't do that. That would be super fast. It wouldn't go that fast. It'd be like fucking what it did over in June and July, where it just grinds like fuck. And the point is, you could have fucked around all day, trying to battle against fucking Wall Street to get some fills on a short or whatever. Or just been lining up your next altcoin long. It's 10%. Your short's 10%. And all the fucking all the problems, and there's many problems with shorting, are now on your table, on your plate. Because you're shorting down, first of all, into support, right? You're not exactly in a trade with edge. In fact, I'd argue it's a zero edge. Literally nobody's surprised by this. There's a difference between being surprised, and there's still obviously people that are just long and bullish and bought Bitcoin and won't sell. It doesn't mean that everyone has to turn and flip short. But from a trading perspective, sell the news now becomes the narrative. It was the narrative before, I talked about this before, right? It was the narrative before the ETF approval was like, oh, sell the news, like way before it, there was a flush out, fake news, and then there was sell the news, and then there was the actual sell the news. But because the way it works when you get wrecked essentially on your trade, and you don't want to admit that you were wrong, is you'll just abandon one bias. So this is what you don't want to do. Something like this, where we had the fake news, the fake announcement over here, and price wicked up like that, dropped down to here, and everyone was sell the news. And a bunch of people were short, and I saw them all parading around, oh look, sell the news has happened already. And then of course, because the news hadn't even happened yet, it squeezed back up, and where did it go? It took out their stops. But what I saw yesterday was like, all the people just abandoned the sell the news narrative right at the point when it's most likely to be sell the news. Because, and this happens, you fucking just study any period of price action. This is the exact same that happened over here, just on a longer time frame. Everyone called sell the news here and here because we put a top in and we had a couple red days. When it came back up here, everyone was just, oh, Bitcoin's fucking great. This is it. Away we go. Sell the news was dumb. Bears are wrecked. Bears are poor again. Fuck you, bears. And then here's the part, and this is the part I want to talk about now. Here's the part that traders, dumb money, investors, all of them are most likely to fall into now, which is complacency. Buy the dip is not the fucking thing you should do on Bitcoin right away. Right? There's an altcoin rotation. There's going to be an altcoin season, if anything. And just, you can see this in the flows today. People are exiting Bitcoin. That's why it moved like this. Now, Bitcoin will rally because, people are eventually going to short too much and there'll be a bounce on Bitcoin. But the strong rally and the upside moves are really for alts, if anything. Of course, we could just nuke the whole market, which means everything's fucked. And that's also not off the table either. So don't be thinking that this first dip is the best dip to buy, because that's what people do. The first dip after a sell the news, people buy it. And they get wrecked. And then they keep just doubling down on their bad bias. Now, this was the end of a bull market, so I'm not saying that all of this is going to happen. But I do expect that people will, too early, as always, flip bullish. And that's why that first path, I think, is going to be the one we get. If what I think is going to happen happens, then you're probably going to see Bitcoin bounce. People will buy the dip. They'll get wrecked. Right? They'll start coping. It'll chop around. It won't look good. It'll go lower, but it'll hold. And so from being bullish here, they'll get stopped out. They'll get bullish again. They'll get stopped out. They'll start getting bearish as Bitcoin goes sideways instead of down. And then it can run up and maybe attack the highs, or maybe just run into resistance. I would think it probably attacks the highs, kind of like 2021, and takes them out, because when Bitcoin makes a new high, like you saw yesterday, right? When Bitcoin makes a new high, people just lose their mind and automatically think that there's no way this could be sell the news now because it's so bullish. So you obviously don't want to be getting long and max bullish up here. By the same token, you don't need to be getting max bearish down here. Just because it's this is basically like a liquidation cascade, right? the market's going down. It's going to keep going down because it's just heavy. There's a complete absence of demand, and there's a lot of open positions that need to close. But that's going to leave behind an inefficiency, and the inefficiency is what we can trade, right? Because this right now is forced selling. This is not organic selling, right? I think the market, the only time you want to really strongly have an opinion to bid this is where there was very clearly real demand for Bitcoin. The last time there was very clearly real demand was this area here. Because ETF trade or not, people were buying up the 40k level over and over and over and over again. If you think that this is support because this is an order block or any of that, no. Like, this is not strong support. Okay? It can bounce, and I do think it does bounce. I think it probably just bounces a little bit like that and then goes lower. But you're talking about a bottom. The only reason this held, and this held, and this held, is because there was the promise of the ETF very soon. So people were willing to buy at places where they wouldn't normally buy because the promise was it's going to go up. And it did, and they took profit. Now, the trade's over. The ETF's over, right? People are going to, every single minute that passes from here, people are going to care less and less and less about ETFs. So the only time you want to look at Bitcoin is whenever it comes down and forms a strong support or reaches an area of strong support. To me, that's kind of the 40 to 42k level first, but only if it holds there, right? Again, there's people like, oh, I'm going to set orders and buy there. What do you mean set orders? Like, every time it comes down anyway, right? It's going to come down, it's going to bounce, it's going to retest. It's probably going to sweep it, retest again, and then go up. Like, this is just how the bottoms form. You don't have to buy the first wick. Like, how many times do you have to see this to know that? You didn't have to be in this wick. You could have bought even lower there. You could have bought there. You could have even waited for the strength to start showing and buy there. It's like, and this isn't just, that's not just one example. This happens fucking all the time. Because the asset's big. It's a large, very institutional asset now, and there's a lot of people trading in and out of it, and this just looks like total dog shit right now. So it's probably going a lot lower. This is just heavy selling. Consistent sell pressure. Let me see here. 3 minute, 1 minute chart's best. Yeah, these type of, at least in this type of shape so far, someone's just exiting a massive position. And no real. The main thing is just the absence of demand. And this is where you don't want to, like, this is where the candlesticks will lie to you and you'll psyop yourself, because don't go off how it looks. You have to think about the absence or presence of supply and demand. Like, Bitcoin has, up until yesterday, Bitcoin had a guaranteed source of demand. This, again, people talk about sell the news. It's not even about whether it's sell the news or blah, blah. People way overthink these things. Until yesterday, there was a guaranteed source of demand, right? And the guaranteed source of demand was ETF buyers. People playing the trade who said, until the ETF has gone live, I will keep buying. So now that trade is over, that source of demand is gone. So the selling that we're seeing, volume-wise, probably isn't even anything that much more than what we had saw over the past few weeks, right? The only difference is you now have a lack of demand, right? Like, you look at the volume itself and the sell-off and all that, like, the volume's nothing, right? We had high volume selling here and here and here. We had high volume buying, we had high volume selling, we had massive sell-off, we had high volume buying. Nothing is that much different except the participants, which is the most important thing. The market now has fewer people that are just willing to buy Bitcoin at these levels because they don't see how they can turn around and sell it to somebody higher. That is also why people are buying alts, because they do see clear skies above. Ethereum, the ETH ETF, Larry Fink from BlackRock was talking about it on TV just today. So people are going to look at it and say, oh, if I buy Ethereum, will someone buy it off me at a higher price? Probably. That's all it is, right? In-app works for 4 seconds of Vimeo, nobody works tonight, no. Give me a sec. Try now. If anyone has have problems with that, try refreshing now. You shouldn't need to log into Vimeo. And it might work. Welcome to Wall Street. Okay, GM. Let's get into Casual Friday. David, Professor, you stay in position that the next time to buy Bitcoin will be around 41k? No, I didn't say that. Not necessarily, right? I'll just decide how. I'll decide whether to buy or sell at the time. But as I've said all day in trading analysis, I'm still fully spot long. This whole ETF thing, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months from now, we'll be looking back and everyone will be saying, what a non-event, right? Look, even if Bitcoin goes to 30k, it's still pre-programmed to go to all-time high eventually. That's the way I view it. That's what the bull market is. And that's how basically everybody does. And that's why it's most likely going to happen, because when so many people have the same opinion, the same general view, that's how you get a bull market. There's this thing where you start as a trader and you think that everything has to be contrarian. No, you literally have to have everybody rowing in the same direction for a bull market to happen. The contrarian is whenever people add leverage. You want everyone to buy Bitcoin, spot, and keep buying Bitcoin DCA with their salary every month, spot, and not leverage, and hold it, and never sell. That's how it goes up. That's how you get a bull market. That's why the stock market goes up, because people buy stocks every month through put some of their salary in every month into a mutual fund, never look at it, never touch it, never sell it, right? The difference is, in the little cycles in between, people will get overexcited and they will add leverage and they will go long on futures. And if you get too much of a positioning to one side, and especially if you get a build-up of leverage over several months, that's how you can have an actual market top once you've had all the signs of euphoria and all that. So now, I mean, local top on Bitcoin. Bitcoin probably underperforms for quite a while. Bitcoin dominance is weak, like super weak. Bitcoin dominance is topped. So that's topped now for quite a while, I would say. And that's just it, right? That's just it. It's like, if you hold Bitcoin and you're an owner of Bitcoin and you hold spot Bitcoin, good. Like me, what I'm doing, continue holding. Don't sell. Just wait. Buy more if it goes to levels that I want to buy more at. But don't expect, at least I don't expect Bitcoin to outperform anything for the next several months. There's probably most likely going to be some kind of rotation into altcoins for a period of time. And again, like I said with alts, the best time if you can get a chance to buy them is when they come all the way back down to this 450 level, which again I talked about. Don't be buying up into the highs. If it comes back to the lows and altcoins chop around for a bit, that's the time to look at some positions there. But with the total 3 and all that, you want to just zoom out. And just zoom out and say, okay, if this continues to hold the way it's holding, and it holds the weekly bands, which it hasn't even tested yet. So as a group, as a category, I don't think altcoins are gonna go crazy. This whole thing is just setting up to be the ETH show, because ETH's not in total 3, it's total 2. And total 2 is in much better shape, right, including ETH. And I think ETH is probably just gonna continue outperforming. And that doesn't mean the US dollar value goes up instantly from here. Like I said, the best time to buy ETH is not right now. Okay, the best time to buy ETH is when it has a decent pullback. And when people start saying it's over. And that might actually come quite soon. Because as much as I think ETH outperforms, I'm not buying it here, right? If I have a portfolio of Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, I would swap it all to ETH right now, or swap 75% of it, I should say. That's what I did. That's not the same as buying ETH at this price, though. That's saying at this price, I would rather hold ETH over Bitcoin or Sol because it's going to outperform them. That's both upside and downside. But if you're like, where do I buy ETH, US dollars terms? Well, whenever there's some kind of decent shakeout of the first people who FOMO'd in long. ETH has a habit of doing this. It's probably most likely going to stay sideways for a bit and then drop off and then go up again, roughly following that path. But the thing with this is, you can see this and read this and tell yourself you're going to do it, and then you can just not do it. You can just fuck it up. And I've been guilty of that in the past, of making plans and just not sticking to them. This is not going to follow my arrow. It's not going to follow the path that I say it's going to follow. The higher low is not going to be there necessarily. But all that matters is all the way up. If you're seeing these higher lows where ETH pumps and you don't FOMO into the pump and you wait for it to form some kind of low, and then it pumps and you don't FOMO into the pump and you wait for it to form some kind of higher low. That's all I mean. But if you look at these past ones, like that higher low could take 2 or 3 weeks to form from here, right? We might have topped, might go sideways, might drop back, and it could literally, like it might do this. And it might have 2,300 up to 25, down to 23, up to 25, down to 23. And everyone goes flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop. It's over, it's back, it's over, it's back, it's over, it's back. And if you just zoom out and say, wait, is it forming a higher low? Yes or no? Keep it simple. And I don't see anything. Like, I don't really see anything that's that interesting other than ETH. Because there's also like the probabilities. The probabilities are that Ethereum, when it gets going, will suck all the air out of the market. And I think people forget too that altcoins have already had a run. And not just a run, they've had a historic run, like a fucking crazy 3-month up-only run. All while ETH did nothing. So don't be surprised if ETH just runs by itself here and everyone's over-allocated into alts. Again, like I said, if total 2's looking like this, where it's had a breakout, is back under it, and if it's bearish, it's certainly not as bearish as total 3, which is putting in a lower high, right? So if your altcoin cap excluding ETH is weaker than your altcoin cap including ETH, then ETH is strong. All of this now, everyone could be like, yeah, what, do a long ETH beta optimism arbitrum, blah, 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 or do a long Sol along this or along that. And they're just doing the same mistake, at least I think. Same mistake as what they did with Bitcoin. Where whenever Bitcoin was running for its like ETF final stage trades, people were like getting long altcoins. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's a Bitcoin trade. If the next trade is an ETH trade, it's an ETH trade. People are like, no, well, I'm going to buy ETH beta. Why? Because you don't have enough money? But the market doesn't care about that, right? I struggle to see, and I'm this is my, you can fucking bookmark this or whatever. I just don't think any of the ETH beta trades are going to outperform ETH in the next month. I think ETH is going to have its run, but it's a big asset. It's a high market cap. It takes a lot of capital to move it. So when people start to follow ETH and chase ETH, I think it'll suck the air out of the room. And your Arbitrums, Optimisms, and all that shit, they might go up, but they'll probably underperform. Other stuff will make nice, there'll be nice setups for trades. I'm not saying that certain stuff won't pump. Of course, stuff's always going to pump. But most people are probably just going to fumble it by just not having ETH. And that goes for like anything that's on centralized exchanges. So I mean like these bigger coins that you all hear of, they're on Bybit, Binance, whatever, right? Link, Lido, Frax, Say, Sui, fucking Render, WorldCoin, Fetch, Filecoin, ADA, BNB, Ripple, just all those big caps. The exception to this, and which is why I bought some Unibot, the exception to this is like on-chain shitcoins. Because if Ethereum does have its big run, right? If Ethereum does have a run, then the Ethereum ecosystem is going to run. And Unibot is the simplest way to get exposure to that for me. I'm not an on-chain shitcoiner. That's just not what I do. I don't have time for it. And frankly, I don't find any edge in it for me. I don't think that just buying everything that launches and praying is really a trading strategy. If other people do, good for them. But I do know that people do that, and they love to trade Uniswap shitcoins, and they don't give a fuck about gas. If you think gas is going to be an issue in this, it's not. If you think gas fees are going to stop people gambling on Ethereum, you have not been around. You have not lived through a market cycle, very clearly. So take it from me, if anyone starts talking about it's all about Solana because Ethereum gas fees are too high, doesn't fucking matter. Why? Because all the whales and all the pumpers who launch these projects and pump them, and they are all just pump and dumps, all these shitcoins that launch in a shitcoin season, they know what they're doing. People are they're gonna pay a $30, $40, $50 gas fee if the coin is going 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x. Right? If you're putting 0.1 ETH in, which is about $250, and you're paying $50 of gas, that's $300. But if you've seen coins going 3x, 4x, 5x, which is what these shitcoins do, you don't give a fuck. And if you look over at Solana and you notice that all the charts are dead and nothing's pumping, it doesn't matter if it's 0.0001 cent of a fee. Basic logic. Green candles will fix everything and make people it will make people forget about ETH gas fees and stop caring about ETH gas fees. Because they didn't care in 2021, they didn't care earlier this year in 2023 when we had the first Unibot run, right? They didn't seem to care about gas fees then when Unibot went up 15x, did they? And so then you've all this shit, like just dog shit coins like this. I don't know, it's random. Here's a shit coin, 1.6 mil market cap. Look at this. This is what these people like to trade, right? I don't, but this is what they do. This is on Ethereum. This is a shit coin, super low market cap. They're like, maybe this will go 10 mil, maybe it'll go to a 20 mil market cap or whatever. But all they're doing now is they're looking and saying, hold on a minute. This thing is up 15x just from this level. Not even from the lows, just from here. They're like, holy shit. If I just bought 0.1 ETH worth of that, I'd have 1.5 ETH right now. And it would have cost me what? $30 in gas fees. They don't care. They're going to do it. So if we're not having an ETH shitcoin season now, then we're fucking never going to have one. And by the way, it might not happen. Maybe the market's just done. But I'm willing to take the other side of that bet and say the market's not done. And so this is really important because the liquidity is going to, if I'm right, and I'm not saying I am right, but I've been right most of the way here, and this is what I'm saying now. So you can take it or leave it. Certainly don't just take what I say blindly. Do your own fucking research. Form your own opinions. You're not a sheep. And if I'm right, altcoins on centralized exchanges will have a big drain of liquidity. Because once the shitcoins on chain, like this fucking Douglas Adams dog shit, goes 15x in a day, or whatever, a couple of weeks. Once that stuff starts going 15x in a day, like it can do and does do whenever you see it going crazy, a lot of liquidity is going to drain away from all the stuff that's ran really hard on centralized exchanges. And most of that stuff is starting to form tops. Just look at Total 3. Right? Total 3 is looking like it's probably going to go sideways. Okay? If it goes sideways, this is mostly stuff on centralized exchanges. The Total 3 does not update with every new 1 million market cap shitter that launches. It's coins that are literally big enough to be included. So if it's doing this and it's not making new highs, that means that if you go on Bybit and long Fetch and expect it to make new highs, you're betting against the trend. You're betting that Fetch will go to new highs when the Total won't. Now, it can, some of them will, but most of them won't, and that's why the Total 3 will look like that. So if Total 3 starts making new highs, that's when you look at it and say, oh, money's flowing into alts. If that happens, excellent. If that doesn't happen, expect people to go and chase things that are higher beta, further down the risk curve, all the way down into shitcoins. That's what they do. Crypto exists for one main purpose, which is speculation. And people just want action. That's it. They want to trade stuff that moves. And the only question is, are you going to be early to that or late? Or just not participate? It's fine to not participate. In fact, that's advisable for most people. You don't have to do any of this shit if you're just buying up spot and waiting for all-time highs and making a bunch of money. But this is how traders think, so it's obviously how I think. And then the reason I bought Unibot is because Unibot's a Telegram bot for trading shitcoins. Because if you use Uniswap, you'll know that it's not very user friendly, right? Especially for someone who wants to trade frequently or manage their positions, whatever. And this Telegram bot, Unibot, is actually useful. I've used it, right? You can just go and click a button and boom, it buys it. You don't have to worry about slippage or gas fees or whatever. It sorts all out for you. It's good. It's really good. And so my basic logic is, 1, the Unibot chart looks great. It's had a lengthy reaccumulation. 2, if people start aping shitcoins again, then they're going to use the bot, and then the bot's going to go up in value. And if there's attention on it, Unibot will become all the hype again. I don't care about catching the actual next 100x gem on the chain. That's not my game, because there's people who've been studying the last year for that kind of shit. So I don't play that game. So that's how I get exposure to it. Davidas, will you ever buy a frog? A pet frog would be funny. Surly, GM. Not sparkling water, it's Celsius, Kiwi Guava, GM. Keith, GM, I'm doing excellent. Changing your life. Glad to hear it. Very happy to hear that. 2 questions. 1 short question just out of interest, and 1 about psychology and mindset. Question 1, what car do you drive? Question 2, how do you deal with stress? Because when I'm stressed out, it feels like it's not me who's acting, and that scares me, and afterwards I'm feeling self-doubt. Just wanted to ask you, because I trust you and trust this platform 100x more than mainstream media. GM. So where I'm living right now, I don't even have a car at the moment. My car is back in where I'm originally from, so I'm not driving at the moment. Because I don't need to. I walk everywhere. I live by the sea. I'm 2 minutes from the nearest town. My gym is, I have a gym at my house. I have a gym where I live. I have a sauna where I live. Swimming pool where I live. So I don't drive at the moment. How do you deal with stress? Because when I'm stressed out, it feels like it's not me who's acting, and that scares me. And afterwards, I'm feeling self-doubt. I've loads of daily lessons on this. A lot of these topics are covered in daily lessons at different points. So I'm trying to think what the best way to say it other than just, it's always kind of hard with these questions because the answer is always, I have already answered it in a bunch of lessons, but I'll try and give it a new answer. The best way to deal with stress, I mean, first thing is that you recognize it. right? And when you say it feels like it's not you who's acting, well, that is true, right? Because if you're allowing your automatic emotional response to dictate what you do, it's not you. You're not choosing, you're not in control. So you just have to decide to be in control. And it is obviously easier said than done to just say, decide to not act out of stress or decide to not act out of fear or whatever. But it's really just something that you get better with over time as well, by putting yourself in stressful situations. And I think that's why imposing stress on yourself is good. That's why people do tough things. Because then when real stress comes, that's not stress that you want, your body at least is used to stress. So do more of that. Do more things that make you uncomfortable. Right? Do things that, it can be literally anything. Just think of a bunch of things. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be mental. It could just be like sitting in, it could be like reading a book. If you fucking really hate reading, it could be like reading a whole book cover to cover. Like something that you would never want to do. Something you really genuinely dislike. And then obviously physically it could be getting an ice bath. That's why people do stuff like ice baths. You don't want to get into it. If you want to get into it, don't do it. If you enjoy it, there's no point doing it. There is no benefit. There's no benefit to doing it if you enjoy it. The stress is the benefit. The not wanting to do it is the benefit. The deciding to do something that you really don't want to do and do it anyway, that's the benefit, right? And so find more things like that. Public speaking, if you don't like public speaking, force yourself to do it. You're going to feel stressed then, you're going to feel nerves, anxiety, all that. But it's like a safe way to do it. That makes sense? It's stuff that you're choosing to do that you don't want to do, but that it's not going to kill you, right? And it's not going to put you in any financial stress or any financial danger. And so you can get kind of free. You can get a little free reps, practice. You can have some reps on how to deal with stress. Mojo Pin, what's your opinion on AI and how it will affect the world and capitalism? AI is already it's already here. But how is it going to change the world? I mean, I don't know, right? For me, what do I think about AI? I don't really care. I look at it and I think, do other people care about it? Can I speculate on it? And can I make money from it? So it's kind of like I don't know, I wasn't old enough to be around during the dot-com bubble, like trading. I wasn't trading during the dot-com bubble. But I would imagine there was a lot of the same things, right? Where people were asking, like, what is the internet? Why does the internet matter? How do you think the internet's going to change the world? I mean, people literally thought the world was going to end when the clocks ticked over to 2000, right? Y2K. So if you think that people are like somehow different today than they were 24 years ago, they're not. We'll start with that, right? People are no different. And so the AI doomers are probably the same as the dot-com doomers. And it will end up that AI is far more of a benefit to humanity than a drawback or a destructor. And this goes for everyone here. Like, don't get me wrong. No one's has read more conspiracies and all that shit than me. But most people, especially the way that the world's so polarized now, and like, I think if you were like a contrarian, you were just always a contrarian. So in 2000, you would have been on the other side of everything anyway. But it does seem like these days it's even more so, where you've got like all the COVID nonsense and all the woke stuff and all this. It does feel like everything that's mainstream is just completely anti to what I believe. But that can lead you into this terrible negative trap where you just think everything's a psyop and you think everything's bad and you think that AI must be designed to destroy us and there must only be bad stuff that's going to come from it. And history would prove that that's not true because we're still here, right? However many fucking tens of thousands of years, like probably hundreds of years that we've had technology that would be capable of fucking up humanity in some way, and we're still here, still fine. And it's like, and that doesn't mean that it's like being complacent. It's just like people are always doomers, and doomers always end up poor, and that's why they're doomers. That's just a fact. Because a doomer didn't believe in the internet, so he never positioned himself to profit from the internet. He didn't leave his job. Like, this is the same thing. It's like the doomer wouldn't leave his whatever, like his office job as an accountant, whenever he had an opportunity to join some new internet startup in 1996. Because he's a doomer. He's, that's a fad. That's not going anywhere. No, I'm happy enough here. All I need is my pen and paper. That silly box, that super expensive machine is never going to replace me. No one can afford those. It's tens of thousands of dollars for one computer. It's never going to replace me. Right? And then he gets replaced. Doomers are always going to be doomers. Doomers said Bitcoin was a scam from $1 all the way to fucking 69,000. And they still call it a scam. Doomers think that Tesla, like there's guys blowing up multi-billion-dollar hedge funds shorting Tesla for the last 10 years. It can't keep going up because it's an unprofitable car company. It's like, good luck with that. It's just, doomers never win. So, what do I think? I think people massively overestimate what's going to happen in AI in the next 2 years, which is why we're going to get a bubble. And then they massively underestimate what's going to happen in AI over the next 10 or 20 years, which is when the real value comes. Because it's just like every single other market bubble and market cycle in history. Just like people overestimated the dot-com stocks in 2000, right? And underestimated what something like Amazon could do over 10, 20 years. People overestimated what the social media companies could do in their first, at the very, very start. People thought like MySpace was the greatest thing ever and Bebo and all this shit. And then they kind of dropped off. And people were like, oh, it was all a scam. And no, then along comes Instagram, or comes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Over time, with the network effects, they become the fucking biggest companies in the world. Same as crypto. And it'll be the same with AI. So that's my view. My view is that people will never change. They will always keep making the same mistakes. Which is, it gets worse the older you get if you're not humble and you don't check yourself. You get set in your ways. This is why old people look at young people and are like, why are these people such idiots? Every generation thinks the generation below them is an idiot, right? And it's always been the way. It's just because they dress differently, and they're like, why do they dress like that? That's stupid. They listen to different music. They're like, why do you listen to that stuff? Like, Bruce Springsteen's way better. Why are you listening to fucking Taylor Swift? Right? But it doesn't matter. Those people, like, the boomers, like, for all that you might think he's a lizard overlord, like, Larry Fink's pretty forward thinking for a 71-year-old. He's out there talking about how the whole world's going to be tokenized and blockchain technology and all this. A lot of 71-year-olds are far more close-minded than that. And that's probably why he's a billionaire leader of the biggest fucking asset manager in the world, right? And then for every Larry Fink, there's 10 million other 71-year-olds around the world who are just saying, like, turn off that stupid music. You're a fucking idiot. Put that phone down. Your music's shit. Your fashion's shit. Your everything is shit. So don't get stuck in your ways. Always try and keep an open mind. Bokari, which alt's in your bucket for next month or so? I already answered that. Go and read Trading Analysis. I'll not repeat myself ad nauseum. Ethan, GM, I'm currently 5x on a 5x win streak. Wondering when I should stop. Should I aim myself to max 3 wins a day? It doesn't matter, bro. If you're following your rules, then keep trading. There's no such thing as over trading if you're following your process and your process says to trade. Over trading is where you take trades that are outside of your process, or you take trades from your process but you bet too big on them. Yeah? So if you're keeping inside your risk rules and you're keeping inside your system rules, you can't overtrade. And if you're setting yourself something like this where you have 2 losses a day and then you stop, good, great. Having a loss limit is totally fine. You should never limit yourself to a maximum number of winners. No, because that doesn't make sense. That's why would you stop? It can't get too good. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a win streak or a loss streak, right? It's just the law of large numbers. A win streak doesn't mean you're doing better. It doesn't mean you have a hot hand. It doesn't mean that you're suddenly doing things better. And a loss streak doesn't mean you're a useless piece of shit who can never make it as a trader and you should just give up now. But your brain will tell you that. Confidence is real. But that's why you should lean on systems. Because if your system says what to do, confidence doesn't matter. Confidence is only a trap as a trader. It's only a trap. Because think about it. If you don't have a system that says enter here, exit here, right, and it's objective, if you don't have that and you go based off confidence, well then you're not going to take trades when you have a loss streak. So how the fuck are you ever going to get out of your loss streak if you stop taking trades? Understand? The cure for a loss streak is not to stop trading, it's to keep trading. And understand that it's the law of large numbers, and eventually, just like you had a loss streak, you'll start having a win, a loss, a win, a loss, and then eventually you'll have a win streak. Because that's just the distribution of outcomes of any series. So there's a key thing. It's don't stop trading, but don't trade more. Don't take extra trades. Don't trade bigger to try and make it back. There's a key thing there. Just keep sticking to your process. Max, GN, did you already allocate yourself? Are you still waiting? Everything I said in trading analysis is where I'm at the moment. Yusuf, are we bullish or bearish for Bitcoin this week? Frankly, a pointless question, to be honest, because it's Friday. So what do you mean by this week? We've already had most of the week behind us. What do you even mean by bullish or bearish, right? Because it's the logic doesn't add up. Like, what do I say? I'm bullish. What does that mean, though? If I say I'm bullish on Bitcoin right now, what does it mean? Without a time frame, without a setup, without a price, entry, where does the risk, where am I wrong, all this kind of stuff. So really try and avoid being bullish or bearish on any low time frames. The only time it's okay to be bullish is when it's a bull market and you say, I'm not fucking selling my spot bags that I bought at 20k because of some temporary top below all-time high about ETFs. Okay, yeah, you can say bullish on time frame. As for in within the week, I talked this morning about how I think the top's in. But we've already had a significant sell-off since then. So am I still bearish? No, because now people are going to be starting to flip bearish themselves. You should get less bearish the more it goes down. Right? But it also doesn't mean I'm going to turn around and flip long and start max longing either. This is just one of those phases where, like I've said really clearly, Bitcoin is going to be out of... Bitcoin is going to get out of people's attention span. Like, people are not going to look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's over from a trading perspective. From a trading perspective for the next few weeks, people are going to turn their attention away from Bitcoin for good or for bad, because there's nothing to keep them interested. The thing that everyone is waiting for has happened. Therefore, why would people keep longing Bitcoin whenever there's other stuff that goes up a lot more? It's just any stream of logic dictates that Bitcoin is going to lose relevance right now in favor of alts. There is no other argument. Now, that doesn't mean alts go massive and massive pumps. It could all be over, right? And everything could go down. That's also a possibility. But really, in any of those scenarios, trying to long Bitcoin on every dip is just not the right play, so avoid longing Bitcoin on every dip. Legipe, definitely got that wrong. I'll link you to a lesson, which is exactly what that is. I also have bull market advice series I need to get up. Hi Dak, why are you keeping your identity a secret? Are those stream thumbnails accurate to your look? Those stream thumbnails are exactly what I look like. In real life, I'm actually a Pepe. I'm actually a frog. Surly, what's your favourite food? What makes it special? Don't really have one, to be honest. Nothing springs to mind, so I don't have a favourite food. Abdullah? I like lots of food. I like food. All types. Not all types. Some food's bullshit, but I'm not a... Yeah, nothing really springs to mind. Abdullah, GM. What are the major lessons you learned in 2023? Go and watch my 2023 review. It's on one of the daily streams. I covered everything on the 2023 daily or yearly review. So I won't beat a dead horse. You can go back and watch that one. Davidos, what do you think about the universe as a whole? Do you think it's some sort of smart creation that will evaporate when we find out how it all happened, just like Douglas Adams' theory states, which could indicate that there might be some higher power, a creator, a god, and that we are the only conscious species in the whole observable universe? Or do you think it sort of just happened and maybe there are infinite realities, maybe in some in which we are real frogs? It's a very deep question, and you made it, you added a little bit of humour at the end. Good job. Let's take the edge off. What do I think about the universe as a whole? I believe in God. So I think everything's created by God and created for a reason. And I think it's foolish to try and prove or disprove that, because there's been how many billions of other people that haven't done it. So I don't think anyone's going to do it, right? And people will search, but people will always search. They're always seeking. It's in our nature to seek truth. That's why people do everything they do. That's why people fucking are religious about Bitcoin, right? Maybe they're an atheist, but they're religious about Bitcoin. Everyone wants a community. They all want to seek some kind of truth. For me, I believe in God, and I don't know Douglas Adams' theory. Never read it. It will evaporate when we find out how it all happened. I mean, guess we don't find out then. I kind of like Earth. Kind of like this place. Z Siga, sorry for asking a trading related question. You're banned. What do you think around when the first big sell-off of Bitcoin will come after this ETF approval and the first 40 hours live, just approximately? But what do you mean, bro? Like, come on. Apart from the 40-minute video I did this morning and the hour-long video I did yesterday and the 500 messages that I put in Trading Analysis, which all talk about this, what more can I say? There is not much more I can say. Like, do you want me to go and say at 5:39 p.m. on Monday, the market's going to go down $369 and then it's going to collapse another $2,000? Like, what more can I do? So, and then also, don't be so vague, right? If you're asking a question, be more objective. What do you mean first big sell-off? Because we've just had one, right? So like, but is that a big sell-off? Like, so does this class for you as the first big sell-off? That to me is a pretty big sell-off. Which is funny because people are kind of like just in denial at the moment. Because that's a 12% dip, right? The absolute nuke we had the other day, which everyone got super scared about, was the exact same size. So I hope you're all taking notes here, mental notes. About, isn't it weird that people are like in no way as fearful right now as they were over here? Like, not even remotely. What does that tell you? People are not even remotely as fearful as they were back there. Why? Well, the simplest answer is complacency, right? Because recency bias affects everyone. And all the time we've gone up since October, we have a dip, it gets bought up. We have a dip, it gets bought up. We have a dip, it gets bought up. And so if you're just an average investor holding, you've learned, you've been conditioned, and the market will condition you. This is why people walk into the same traps over and over and over again and lose all their money, by getting liquidated or bag holding to zero. The market will condition you because it's a game. No one is out to help you. They're trying to take your money. So it'll keep bouncing. It'll keep bouncing. It'll keep bouncing. And the average person is like, oh, look, just either buy the dip or ignore the dip, right? You're either going to buy it or you're going to ignore it. Everything's just noise. Every time it dips, I just log off. I log back on in 2 days' time, and we're back to all-time highs or back to new highs on my portfolio. And when you zoom out, that's true. But as a lower time frame trader, I find it very interesting that we've had our biggest dip and there's been zero bullish reaction. Like, again, it's not just the dip, but this is the biggest, literally the biggest correction we've had. The last biggest one was 10%, right? It was just 10%. And we had one over there that was far less. But this one has got literally no fucking demand, right? There's no big long wick on this one. The market's struggling. The market's not bouncing here. Yeah? And I just find it funny that I think people are just sleepwalking into the same mistakes that they always do. And, I mean, probably just ends up with the usual where they just get bled out. Yeah, I don't think it's big sell-offs. It's not big sell-offs that you want to worry about. In fact, as a trader in a bull market, big sell-offs, fast sell-offs are the best thing you can see. And I've got 25 minutes left. I've got dinner in an hour, so I need to finish this after 30 minutes, right? Here's something that you should know. It's not big sell-offs that are risky or that you should be worried about. It's when it just starts to grind lower and just goes stair-step lower and lower and lower. That shows a lack of interest and just a slower distribution. If we could just nuke now, which we might be in the process of doing, you have no idea how fucking bullish this would be in the medium term or whatever. If we just washed everybody out like that in a really fast move, because that is the bottom, right? That would just be the bottom. Now that's why it won't happen. At least I'm very, very skeptical that will happen. But if that did happen, that would be it. That would be the bottom. You'd have a big run up, you'd come back down, and then you'd go and you'd spend, a few days, weeks, or months reaccumulating. But the market would start buying at that point, and you'd actually then get a move up, and you'd have a far bigger move and much sooner. So yeah, big leverage unwinds and fast shakeouts, that's exactly what you want. That's what I always want to see. And it probably sounds kind of counterintuitive to some, and that's exactly why it tends to be the way, and that's exactly why it sort of works, if there's such a way of saying it. Not that it works, but I hope you understand that logic. Because if Bitcoin just grinds down and bounces and grinds down and bounces and grinds down and bounces and grinds down, it's not a sign of... It's a sign of actual holders selling. Whereas when you've really fast, deep sell-offs, it's usually just a bunch of over-leveraged traders all getting liquidated together. And the reason that marks a bottom is because people like me and like you that are sitting patiently waiting to buy the dip, and the smart money and the big players and the OGs and the whales, they all see that. We all see it, right? And we see, wow, Bitcoin went down like 30% in 3 days. Yeah. And there's like highest liquidations we've had in 2 years. Yeah, that's time to buy. Buy. The tourists have been taken out. Thank you for your donations. We're going to start buying. And then that's the bottom. It doesn't mean V reversing with 100k, but it does mean it's the bottom. When I say this, in a bull market, right? And I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, just a side note. Like, the market loves to go to places and do things that people don't expect. So I wouldn't be surprised to see just a fucking straight line down to 34, 35. I don't think this will happen. This is certainly not in my probability, in my highest probability category or even close to it. But if it happened, I wouldn't be surprised. Because if you think about it, how does everyone feel at the moment? Everyone feels pretty bullish at the moment, right? And yeah, ETFs sell the news. Yeah, of course, local top. But everyone's like, no, it's just local top. We'll long some alts. We'll wait a while. We'll let Bitcoin sell off to 40k and then we'll reaccumulate and then we'll go again. And the halving's coming and people are bullish, right? You can have all the things you want. People love to talk about recession and interest rates and the Fed and blah, blah, blah. That's what doomers talk about. The number one thing that will make people bearish is red candles. Just like the number one thing that makes people bullish is green candles. That's always been the way. And that's why there was nothing... What made Solana's ecosystem come back to life? Not Solana the token. Why is Bonk such a big coin now? Why is Jupiter suddenly a great DEX? Why do people even know what Cheeto is? Why do people care about Pith? The only reason that anyone gives a fuck about anything that's going on in Solana is because they put in 4 or 5 massive green weekly candles. And so, what does that mean? Well, if you believe Bitcoin's going to all-time high again, then it's fine for you. You're like, cool, everything else is noise. But most people don't believe that. Most people think they believe that, but they are very paper-handed. They're weak. They don't have conviction. They're just tourists. Because they're only coming here to get rich. They're not coming here to do any work. They're like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. Yeah, we're all going to make it to the moon. No, your conviction is going to be tested. And you're going to fail again, just like you failed after FTX. Just like you failed in the March banking crisis. Just like you failed in August. These people, and your only goal, your only mission is to just not be one of those people, right? They will have their conviction tested, and just look that when you lay it out like that, this is not testing their conviction. It's not enough pain, and they're not going to sell, right? That person's not going to sell because fucking someone comes on the news and says, "Oh, there's fears of a recession." That's not going to make that person sell. That person's going to sell when the candle just looks like fucking shit. And smart money knows this. So you can be sure there's some people who want the price to go there. They're going to try and make it happen. I'll be really clear. That's not what I think is going to happen. But I will also be very clear that if it does happen, it's probably the best buying opportunity you'll ever get in your life. I don't know what price. But if you just see relentless red candles on Bitcoin and it just doesn't bounce for a couple of weeks and there's just pure carnage, yeah, you're probably never going to get a better opportunity to buy. Especially the worse it feels. Mr. Robot, GM, and congratulations on the massive performance in the comp. I don't know if you're living completely alone, but if so, how do you deal with the loneliness that comes with trading? I don't live alone, so I can't really speak to it. I mean, I can. I've lived alone in the past plenty of times. And I spent a year trading during, although I spent a year trading during COVID, which was partially living by myself. But just in general, obviously, like that time was very isolated for everyone. Because even if you did go out or could do anything, the whole world was just shut down. So, and I was trading during that, and then we started the real world, and so, like that's the biggest thing is the community, right? The difference of when I was trading just by myself versus trading whenever I have HU and then the real world, it's night and day. This is your community. This is it, right? This is it. As a trader, this is it. As a person, well, it doesn't matter, right? Because if you're like asking me about how do you deal with loneliness, it has nothing to do with trading, right? That's not Your loneliness does not come from trading. Your loneliness comes from the fact that you're living by yourself, which is the first part of your question. There is no loneliness that comes with trading. That's completely self-enforced in your own head. Because you have this place. You have the real one. You don't have to, and I don't. Like, I've got friends who trade, but they don't live with me. They don't live in the same city as me. So any of my trader friends, I talk to them online. And I get to visit them maybe once or twice a year when I travel. But so all the amount of interaction you guys have with each other and with me is the exact same amount of interaction that I have with other traders. I talk to all you guys and I talk to my close network, which is just on Telegram. It's not in person. And so the loneliness side of thing is probably more so that you're living by yourself, and you just need to make sure to get out, bro. You need to get out. Just little things like typical habits that a trader will have is they'll order food in, like get delivery because they don't want to leave the screens, and they'll eat their food at the desk and all this stuff. Just force yourself, just like, no, I'm going out for food. I'm going out for lunch. I'm going to a cafe. I'm going to a restaurant, whatever. Like a couple of times a week. You just have to, if you live by yourself, you have to just make it a habit to get out of the fucking house. Fine times, GM. Macro, Western countries in an election year are engaging in war, whereas those who haven't seem to be positioning themselves better with China. Are these geopolitical situations going to have any influence in the crypto markets in 2024? My thesis leans towards yes, and answers way people will be looking for an asset outside of the norm. Blah, 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 blah. And I say blah, 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 blah because it goes back to my point from the other day, bro. Macro just, it doesn't matter outside of liquidity, really. Not over a low time frame. Over the space of a year or 2 years, the only thing that matters is the liquidity cycle, because it doesn't, like, you have to think about it this way, right? The people in the BRICS countries would have to suddenly all mass adopt crypto and all just decide like that, we like crypto. Because that's adoption is not the country. The adoption is the people all over the world. The network effect is the global population. That doesn't happen over a 1 or a 2 year span. It often happens at the peak of bull markets where people start to get interested, and then some of them will stick around. But we're not there yet. So no, it doesn't matter. Geopolitical stuff, to me, in a bull market doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Because there is no rule to say this country doing this is bullish, this country doing this is bearish. There's no rules. Right? War is bullish, war is bearish. War is neither. Sometimes war produces bullish effects in some markets. Sometimes war produces bearish effects in other markets. Like, there's no rules. Just like anyone who still thinks that Bitcoin is like correlated to the S&P 500. When it's literally a different part of the portfolio now. Because of the ETFs and the move all year where it's tracked gold, but because of the ETFs specifically, people now, the brokerage accounts and the 401ks and all that stuff in America, people who have brokerage accounts, are going to be pinged by their financial advisor about adding Bitcoin to their portfolio. It's not going to replace stocks or bonds. It's going to go in their little exotic category, where everyone has a little 5% of their portfolio that's in the riskier stuff. That's where Bitcoin's going to fit in to begin with. And then the selling point will be, look at Bitcoin's correlation to gold, yet it's gold with higher beta. That's how the advisor is going to sell it to the average person. So if anything, Bitcoin is going to sit alongside gold. So if there's any correlation that should continue to hold, it's Bitcoin and gold. Doesn't mean it will, but that's the most logical. There's zero reason to expect Bitcoin to correlate to stock market, except the fact that both Bitcoin and the stock market, the S&P or the Nasdaq, they are both correlated to global liquidity. So that is true. But then you've got, but so is gold. Everything is correlated to global liquidity, because if you print more money and you put more money into the system, people eventually have to buy assets. And that's just it. That's just how it works over a liquidity cycle, which is a short term. what you're talking about, like with like bricks and stuff, and I've been having this conversation a couple of times in Ask Michael recently, is totally true. But it's you're taking a multi-decade shift and trying to condense it into a year. Doesn't matter, bro. This is the reason why SHIB can go to 40 billion, yet there's some other project that has way better fundamentals that's stuck at 1 billion. Because the fundamental shift doesn't matter in the short term. Over time, though, SHIB probably goes to 0, and that fundamental project probably goes to 10 billion and stays there. That's the difference of your time, your time horizon. The only way for the Western world to keep inflation from rising is to make war and print notes. What are your thoughts? Well, that's the way it's always been. But war doesn't... Bro, war is extremely inflationary, not deflationary. War is massively inflationary. So the way for the Western world to keep inflation from rising is not to start war. Starting war is an excuse to print money, which again is inflationary. But that's the game. The world always has to be in some kind of war, right? It doesn't have to be a kinetic war. There was a 2-year war, in air quotes, with COVID. There has to be something that the masses fear so that the governments can then take away your liberties and say, we need to print loads of money to fix this thing. And everyone goes, yeah, of course. Of course you need to print trillions of dollars. Look, COVID, scary virus. Of course you need to lock me in my house, scary virus. So if it's not a war of bullets and guns and tanks, it's going to be a war in your mind. I mean, study history and you'll know that that's always been the way and it always will be the way. FX tradism, GM. I have 3 questions. While marking a gap in a downtrend, can you ask this to me in Ask Michael, please? This is Casual Friday. I don't want to do trading questions too much. Plus, I'm running out of time. But please ask it into Ask Michael. I'll answer it later. Mr. Summers Qualitas, assuming someone, let's call him Supermonk with no system at all, wants to buy coins, go live in a cave for 18 months before selling. Unironically, the best way to outperform in the next 18 months is probably to do that. Should he only buy Bitcoin, ETH, maybe sell and forget? Implicit question. When hearing everything goes up, is it really about a tide lifting everything? Should we expect random implosions, big nukes here and there, etc.? Is this buy and hold strategy only valid with Bitcoin? This comes down to what you want to get out of the bull market, right? You have to start with the first... You're starting with the first assumption, which is that we have a bull market, which means Bitcoin goes to all-time high. And that's the assumption I'm making. And it's very important to make that assumption right away at the beginning and also come to terms with the fact that that might be wrong. But that's the choice you're making. I don't sit here and tell anyone that this is definitely a big, massive bull market that's definitely going to 5 trillion, 10 trillion. I'm saying that is the most likely outcome and also is the outcome with the highest expectancy. Meaning, if it is right, it pays off infinitely higher than if you sit in cash just in case there's no bull run. What's the risk if we have no bull run? You lose maybe 20, 30, 40% of your money. Right? Because a bull run, like if we don't get a bull run, it doesn't mean we go to 0. It just means we have like an underwhelming pump where Bitcoin doesn't go to 70. Maybe it goes to 55 and then drops back. So your downside is not 0 if you buy like Bitcoin, ETH or Sol. Your downside is 20, 30, 40, 50%, depending on where you bought. And your upside is unlimited. That's why the best bet to make when we're below all-time highs, with global liquidity like it is, and bullish market setup and all that, is to bet on a bull market. Again, it doesn't mean it will happen, it's the highest probability. And so, if that was the logic, and you're going to go in a cave for 2 years, 18 months, it depends what type of trader you are. Do you want to have maximum potential upside, but also be aware that by the time 18 months come, it could have went up 100x and then down 99%, and so net you're nowhere, right? That would be like if you bought an altcoin. If you want to ensure that it will have gone up and it will be higher than when you bought it, even if it's down, then yeah, it has to be Bitcoin. And you could say ETH, you could say Sol, sure. In that order though. Bitcoin for sure, ETH less sure, Solana even less sure. And then it comes around to the point of what you're really asking, because you're not going to go and live in a cave. What you're asking me in a very smart way is, what should I do for the next 18 months, right? That goes down to your risk. Like if you've got 10 grand and you have this once in a cycle opportunity to get long, do you want to turn that 10 grand into 30 grand if Bitcoin goes up 3x? Would you be happy with that? If you bought that, did nothing for 18 months, 10 grand to 30 grand, would that be good for you? This isn't a trick question. For some people it'd be yes, for other people no. It all comes down again to the utility of that money and how easily you can make it back. If it's 10 grand, and if anyone has 10 grand and they're also in a job or they're in another campus making money and they're working, almost everyone should be seeking to push a little further out on the risk curve into altcoins, because every single one of you can make that money back. And remember, you're not using leverage. It's not going to go to 0, but your 10 grand might end up as 5. But if the bull market is correct, you might get a 10x, and that's suddenly 100 grand, which is life-changing for anybody who has 10 grand. So this is what altcoins are. It's why they exist. This is also why everybody trades them. But if you've got $1 million, it's a totally different story. That's why you have portfolio splits that are heavily weighted towards Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, whatever, and then you have some in the altcoin category. So you have to ask yourself at that point, and the reason it's different with $1 million is even if you're a millionaire, and let's say, especially if you're a trader, like if you're a millionaire from trading and you lose that, you can't make it back the same way you can make 10 grand back. Right? If somebody, I'll use a different example again. If somebody had saved up $1 million or invested it slowly over time and saved their salary, they've got a good job, maybe they make like 20 grand a month, they've got a really good job, they save up for a few years, and they've got $1 million. Right? Maybe they can save 10 grand a month, they save for 8 years. Yeah? And they save $1 million. If that person loses even half of it, they can't make 500k back fast. It would take them 4 years at the run rate. It would take them 4 more years to get that 500. So that's an enormous risk to take. But if you've 10 grand and you say this is a once in a 4-year opportunity over the next 18 months, I'm willing to put this 10 grand at risk, because even if it goes wrong, by the time the 18 months is up, you'll have made more than 10 grand anyway. If you're not sitting on your fucking ass doing nothing. If you're in a job, you're running a business, you're hustling, you're in one of the other campuses, if you're doing anything for the next 18 months, you're going to make that 10 grand back anyway. So yes, and especially if you're young, or if you've lower responsibilities, you don't have a wife and kids or whatever, you can take that extra risk. But risk is not fucking going all in on something that you've done no research on and just saying 100x YOLO or using leverage. It's calculated risk. And the calculated risk comes from, if I hold Bitcoin, I'll pretty much end up with 2 or 3x my money. If I want to outperform that, I need to find something else. UK Danny? And I'll probably finish it after this one and answer the others tomorrow because I don't have time. GM. My question is restaking. Restaking Finance is the first protocol launching modular liquid staking for Eigenlayer, RSTK token. My question is, why would you need to go through them and not just restake your ETH straight through Eigenlayer? Seems like an unnecessary middleman. Is it because of extra rewards or extra decentralization? Also, was there a difference with restaking and liquid restaking? CoinGecko made a restaking category 2 days ago. Short answer is I don't know, but the long answer is this is just how it works, right? So whenever Ethereum launched the Beacon chain, which allowed users to stake their ETH, they could either do it themselves by having a validator, becoming a validator, which costs 32 ETH. Or if you don't have 32 ETH, they do it through a pool. And the same reason why RSTK is going to exist for the same reason is why you don't just have Lido. It's why you have Lido and Rocket Pool and Frax and all the others. There's multiple places where you can stake your Ethereum. So if there's multiple places where you can stake your Ethereum, logic would say there should also be multiple places where you can restake it. It's simple as that, right? People are going to launch competitors. There's always going to be something different about RSTK than the competitors. But whether it's bullshit or true or good or bad, who cares? Same way that there's 10 pizza shops in your local town, right? Is pizza that good? Shouldn't the best pizza shop just sell all the pizza? Right? There's always going to be competitors. And there's also a demand for tokens. I think people underestimate this too. The reason RSTK exists along with all the others is people want tokens. People want to buy tokens. Eljip, don't know how to pronounce your name. Thank you for your advice on AKT. Made good money from it. Still holding it for 59 cents. Excellent. Very good. I got some extra money that I made. I want to put into AKT again. I'm not trading around. Only want to buy and hold it and spot in the bull run. GM, good stuff. I don't know if you're asking me like where to buy it or whatever, but I can't say. That's up to you. I want to buy more AKT, but we'll just see. Need to see how the market moves over the next few weeks. And Sharan, my answer is the exact same for you. I have two paths for Akash. One of them being that we're in the blow off top phase, like right now, and that we're just priming for the last push, which when you look at it on a weekly is like whenever, like it doesn't have to be right away, but any time in the next couple of weeks or whatever, that the last big push, which is usually like 1 or 2 big weeks, comes, and then that's when it goes into a more significant correction, and that's when it then has to go and reaccumulate if it's going to go higher after. Like that's path 1, and it's not the prices. I'm not saying it's going to 8. I'm not saying it's pulling back to 3. It's just this is the path, the price action I would expect if it goes into a proper blow off. If that's not the case, and if we've already topped, we swept out the highs, we're rejecting back inside. If we've already topped, then I would just expect it to drop back down to where the big support is down there, and that's where I would buy. Or the 200-day moving average, which I don't have on the thing, but 200-day moving average, wherever that would be. So I'm prepared for either. So my plan in path 1 is do nothing. I'm not buying more because path 1's not guaranteed. We might get path 2. So the reason I'm not buying more, because a lot of people say, well, you're saying it's going to $6 or $8. Why aren't you buying more? Because it's not a good place to buy. Because I don't know if I'm right. If I knew I was right, I would fucking take all my money, borrow money off everyone I know, go to the bank, borrow more money, sell my fucking everything I own. If you knew you were right, you would go all in, yeah. But no one knows if they're right. So it's not a good place to buy more, but if it does go up to there, I won't be surprised. That would be path 1. If it doesn't, then I'd expect it to drop back to wherever. But as soon as it drops back a bit, right, again, it's like you don't want to nickel and dime it for trying to catch an extra few percent. If a cash pulls back 40% off the highs, I'd start buying. 40% dip, excellent. Goes down more to 50, good. Goes down to where I'd love to buy it, which is 140, 57%, excellent. So I'll stagger my buys. Buy a bit, buy a bit, buy a bit. And then just wait. So that's it, GM. Everyone else, starting with Sauce. I'll start answering there tomorrow, but I have to go because I've got dinner. I need to shower. So is the market going to pump? I'm going to get in the shower now. The fucking market better pump. Anyway. GM. Thank you all for joining. GM. See you tomorrow, Saturday, which will be half casual Saturdays, half Ask Michael, which might end up being the same thing anyway. Thanks for joining, GM. Talk soon.